enteric nervous system?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine. See, I would like to
Yes,
tell
ma'am.
general instruction to all of you. That is, see, when MBBS itself is self-study, how much you personally put efforts, that is going to bring success to you. And especially in these days of COVID and online classes, absolutely, your responsibility is going to be doubled. Whenever we tell that is this is important for you, this particular aspect is important for you, that is rest of the things has to be covered by you. That is, whenever we tell some homework is given for you means, um, take it as a responsibility. It's not just don't be at a like a very child who wants to escape from the um, activities or homework. Don't do such things. Okay. Um, okay. You tell me how many components are there in the enteric nervous system?
Ma'am, two plexuses.
Yes.
Two plexus are there, ma'am.
What are they?
Myenteric and Maginus, ma'am.
Okay. May I know where is myenteric plexus is located?
Between longitudinal and circular smooth
Longitudinal
muscle
and
layers.
circular muscles, ma'am.
Very good. Only two members are answering. Can I expect from some other people? That is Devika. Devika, roll number 27. Uh, is she there? Devika.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah. Will you please tell the Meesner's plexus, where it is located?
Meesner's plexus are also called as submucosal plexus.
Yeah.
They are located in submucosa.
Okay. What is the function of Meesner's plexus?
They,
Meesner's plexus mainly contributes for
Local contract.
somebody else.
Exocrine and endocrine secretions.
Exocrine and endocrine secretions. No, why you
ma'am,
have
increases
exocrine secretions means what? Please.
Like digestive enzymes.
Very good. That is the glands with ducts. Okay, digestive enzymes. Endocrine.
Like hormones, insulin, glucagon from pancreas.
See, there is no relation between the endocrine part of the pancreas to be influenced by Meesner's plexus. Okay. So yesterday I spoke about hormones, GI hormones also. What are the GI hormones I dealt with? It is gastrin, it is G cells and I cells which secretin, cholecystokinin and S cells which is going to secrete secretin. Okay. Don't get confusion between these two things. So this submucosa, that is why you try to correlate the location and its function. Location and its function. It is going to help the secretions from the lining epithelial cells. You know that goblet cells will be there, Runner's glands will be there in the submucosa. These are all the things which are going to secrete mucin secretions. So which is going to acts like a lubricant and protects the mucosal surfaces of the GAT from the very harsh or hard substances we eat, and as well as from the chemical nature of the substances we eat also, that particular region, as well as in the small intestine. Please all of you listen carefully. In the small intestine, absorption, digestion and absorption, these are the two main functions of the small intestine. Absorption requires movements of this villi, okay, and these movements, local movements are also going to be influenced by the Meso's plexus and also the local blood supply. Local blood supply is also under the influence of this Meso's plexus. What is the contribution of mind to plexus?
On the motor control of the gastrointestinal tract from esophagus to anus.
Peristaltic movements, both the going to cause the contraction of these smooth muscles, that is circular as well as longitudinal smooth muscles, and helps in the propulsion of the food from the oral to aboral direction. From oral to aboral direction through the peristaltic movements, as well as mixing, grinding movements are also there, which helps in the conversion of large particles of foodstuffs into a very minimal size foodstuffs, which absolutely required for the proper action of the enzymes on it. Okay. Okay. We'll start today's topic. Have you drawn the diagrams related to this particular ENS?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Very good. All of you, please learn it properly. Just 1 minute, I'll come back to you. Okay. Today we will, so this gastrointestinal system can be dealt in two ways. That is secretions of the GIT. In many of the textbooks you might have seen all the secretions they will give one as a one set. That is salivary, gastric, pancreatic secretions, intestinal secretions, like that. Okay. And they will construct the another set is being the motility of the GIT. Motility of the GIT means deglutition, that is the process occurring in the mouth region, and gastric emptying, that is happening in the stomach, and peristaltic movements happening in the intestines, like that they will give, and also digestion and absorption as a separate set. And this is one method of dealing with the GIT. And another method is you take the oral cavity, you talk about the secretions of it and motor activities of the oral cavity, and now move on to the stomach region. Of course, applied aspects in relation to that of the oral cavity, and coming to the stomach region, and you talk about the secretions, functions, and of course the motor activities of the stomach, and in the similar way, that is segment wise. So now I'm going to deal with the segment wise, that is oral cavity. First of all, I'll deal with the salivary secretions, and then we will go to the what are the motor activities present in the, that is mastication, chewing, and deglutition. These are all the motor activities exhibited by this particular component of the. Oh my God. Please all of you mute yourself. Make sure that you mute it. Okay. So that's why I started with the salivary secretions. What are the specific learning objectives of the salivary secretions is, what is the composition of it? What are the functions of salivary secretion? What is the mechanism of secretion? How it is going to be regulated? What are the applied aspects? What are the abnormalities associated with the salivary secretions and how they are going to influence us? Okay, coming to the composition, first of all, just for 5 to 10 minutes, we will try to work on this particular slide only, and just you try to answer what is the composition of the, what you know you get, what are all things you know. How will you classify the composition of any of the juices? Organic and inorganic. Of course, water and organic substances, and water and solids further divided into organic and inorganic substances. Okay, composition is water as usual. 99% of the salivary secretions are water and 1% is solids, and basically this salivary secretions will be either serous secretions or mucus secretions or seromucus secretions. Okay, either serous, seromucus or mucus secretions. Serous secretions means they are very thin and they are rich in enzymes. Mucus secretions, they are little viscid and thick, and mucin is one of the most important component of it. Seromucus means it's a combination of these two. And especially, you know already, what are all, please name the salivary glands.
These are
Parotid,
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 sublingual,
submandibular,
and
and sublingual.
mandibular gland.
Okay. Parotid, submandibular, and sublingual glands. Parotid, submandibular, sublingual glands. Okay. Parotid being the largest of all the glands, and it is of the serous in nature. And so sublingual glands are mucus completely. They are, most of it is mucus in nature, whereas in between that is submandibular is seromucus in nature. Okay, just a few outlines, and coming to the functions, I already told you. Being an MBBS student, you have to elaborate little bit more. Simply not writing like that, that is helps in speech or taste sensation and protective. These are the some headings, okay, but you have to little elaborate on each one. Okay, we will go into the details. What is the mechanism of salivary secretions? Okay, all of you know that salivary glands are exocrine glands. Salivary glands are exocrine glands with ducts. Okay, intercalated ducts, intralobular ducts, interlobular ducts, and finally outer ducts which are going to secrete into the buccal cavity. Okay, so what's the mechanism means you have to understand two terms here: primary secretion, secondary secretion. What is a primary secretion? What is secondary secretion? Primary secretion means basically the basic structure of any exocrine gland is acini. Acini is lined with glandular epithelial cells. Hope all of you are understanding. This is a basic thing. Everybody knows about it. Just I'm refreshing all these things. So acini are lined with glandular cells. Those glandular cells are going to secrete some amount of fluid or whatever may be the composition, that is called as primary secretion. When it is moving through the intercalated ducts, intralobular and interlobular ducts, some of the things, some of the modifications do occur to the primary secretion. What is happening means some amount of sodium is going to be absorbed and the cation potassium is going to be secreted, and some amount of chloride is going to be absorbed, and some amount of bicarbonate is going to be secreted. Okay, so when bicarbonates are going on secreting means you can make out the difference, that is the primary secretions will be slightly acidic, whereas that is going to be neutralized by the secondary secretions, isn't it? Bicarbonates are going to be added means they are little alkaline. Okay, hope all of you understood what is primary secretion, what is secondary secretion. That is, and in a normal pace, if the profuse and, for example, if you put a few lemon drops directly into your tongue region, what is going to happen? Profuse amount of saliva is going to be secreted, isn't it? That is a fast rate of secretion. Okay, I think it is clear for you now. What is fast rate of secretion? And now I think all of you are not eating already. You had your breakfast, I think. But some amount of secretion is happening now also, isn't it? This is called as basal rate of secretion. Basal secretions at normal rate. I think it is clear for you. The saliva will not be secreted at a single pace throughout the times, but when needed, when irritants are there. So if you go outside and eat some of the street food or something, what is going to happen? Some irritation happening in the stomach and intestines, that is going to cause profuse amount of saliva is going to be secreted, isn't it? So what I want to convey is mechanism of secretion. First of all, you have to understand there are primary secretion, secondary secretion. Secondary secretion is nothing but modification of the primary secretion by the ductular cells. So ductular cells also contributing something for the composition of the saliva. That is one thing you have to understand. Second thing is the rate of secretion. Rate of secretion is basal rate of secretion is there and profuse very fast. Some of the times fast secretions will be there. So do you think the same composition will be there in the primary secretion and the basal rate secretion and the copious fast secretions?
No, ma'am.
No.
Ma'am.
No. Okay. Why so? In
Because
normal,
needs are different.
It responds
okay, I will tell because your voice is not so clear. That's the reason. What I want to whenever in a normal rate of secretion, what is going to happen is whatever the primary secretion is there, when it is moving through the ductular cells, moment of time is there. So there is a possibility of exchange of ions and bicarbonate secretion, chloride absorption, sodium absorption, potassium secretion. So these are all the modifications can occur. Usually that is okay. These modifications can occur when the time permits. Profuse sudden amount of secretions means whatever the primary secretion that is going to come out of it without any modification. I will tell all these things once again when we are discussing about the mechanism. Just mechanism means two aspects you have to remember. What is primary secretion, secondary secretion, and rate of secretion is the one which is going to influence the composition of salivary secretion. Of course, a regulation. A regulation. In the regulation, most of it, the salivary secretions are under the neuronal regulation. Under the neuronal regulation, and there is a salivary center is there in the medulla oblongata. Inferior salivatory nucleus, superior salivatory nucleus. There are two components in the salivary center, that is inferior salivatory nucleus and superior salivatory nucleus in the medulla, and how it is going to be influenced, we will elaborate then and there. And what are the applied aspects? If it is decreased, if there is any whenever there is the ducts, you can think of in the renals, the stones will be there, in the gallbladder, stones will be there. In the similar way, there are some stones, there is every possibility of they are going to block the secretions from this particular thing. Okay. So these are all the, this is the basic outline I am giving. And yesterday we discussed the same clinical case. Just I would like to go again through this. A 60-year-old female suffering from oral cancer. Radiation therapy was given in the area of salivary glands. What effect would have on the starch digestion and on the teeth? Already we discussed. Just you try to think once again. I think I don't know how many of you remember the answers properly or not. Okay, no problem. For time being, just keep the question with you, and also, if possible, you try to answer. Otherwise, just keep it with you. Okay, coming to the salivary glands. As you told, it is three pairs of salivary glands are there. Three pairs of salivary glands are parotid, submandibular, sublingual glands. Parotid gland is being the largest among all the glands, and it is secreting pure serous secretions. Pure serous secretions, and it is going to open through the Stensen's duct. Stensen's duct at the second molar, on the cheek region of the second molar, and 25% of it is going to contribute for total secretions of saliva. 25% of secretions are coming from parotid gland. Whereas this is supplied by parotid gland whenever stimulated by ninth cranial nerve. It is going to start secreting. So stimulus for it is ninth cranial nerve, and which is coming from inferior salivatory nucleus. Inferior salivatory nucleus. Okay. Submandibular gland. Submandibular gland, it is present below the inferior ramus of the mandible, and it is a seromucous in nature. Serous is of more content, that is 4:1. This is the composition of submandibular secretions and it is contributing to the maximum. Submandibular secretions contributing for the maximum for the salivary secretions and seventh cranial nerve. And it is supplied by the seventh cranial nerve. That is, all of you know, that is lingual nerve, caudal tympanic branch is the one which is a component of seventh cranial nerve. And it is influenced by the superior salivatory nucleus. Superior salivatory nucleus. Sublingual gland. Sublingual gland, of course, the very tongue that is present below the tongue region, and it is of more of mucus in nature. Mucin secretion is maximum 1:4, and it is contributing to the very little amount of salivary secretions, and it is about, of course, it is once again stimulated by the seventh cranial nerve through the superior salivatory nucleus. So, parotid is under the influence of ninth cranial nerve, once again under the influence of inferior salivatory nucleus, whereas these two, submandibular and sublingual, are seventh cranial nerve from the superior salivatory nucleus. Okay. These glands are rich in blood supply. These glands rich in blood supply. Just I would like to ask one question. If the blood supply is decreased, do you think decrease to the salivary glands? Do you think any change in the salivary secretions?
And maybe the composition will be altered.
Please. Composition?
And composition will be altered.
Okay, voice is not so clear, but something I heard is composition is going to be changed, isn't it? Okay. Any other answers? Quantity, do you think any change in the quantity of secretions?
This.
Okay, so when the rich in blood supply, sufficient amount of secretions will be there. When the blood vessels contract, this is one of the important mechanism of regulation of salivary secretions. So when vasodilation occurs, copious amounts of secretions will be there, whereas vasoconstriction occurs, the secretions will be very, very less and very thick viscid secretions you are going to see. Okay, what is the role of this particular blood supply? Means they are very small glands, but they are rich in blood supply because blood supply plays a major role in its secretions. Secretions outweigh the gland. Secretions 1500 ml, whereas this is 20 grams or 30 grams or 10 grams, like that is the size of the glands. Secretions are about 1500 ml per day. That's why secretions outweigh the gland. Basal. Now, what is basal salivary secretion? Just now I told you. That is whenever there is no stimulus. If the secretions are there, that is called basal stimulus. Basal secretion. If you are eating, that is not a salivary secretions will increase. That is not a basal secretion. But there is no stimulus at all. You are not thinking of any food. So you know very well that that is any sight, smell, thought of food is the one which is going to, these are all the things are also acting. Not only there is no need of the actual food should be present in your mouth to stimulate the salivary secretion. The very thought of the food is also. Okay. What is the reason? Can anybody tell? What is the reason why very thought of food or smell of food and if you see the food, sight of the food, why there should be increase of salivary secretions?
Because the taste buds respond and
Sorry, Amma, I'm unable to hear you properly because of net. It is the voice is not clear. But just I feel that it is our brain and all organ systems of our body are very, very clever. They'll think that when you are getting smell of the food or sight of the food or any thought of the food, there is every possibility of immediately you are going to eat. So it will prepare itself. It will prepare itself for the coming over food. Okay, so that is just, I would like to call it as it is proactive. So whenever the exams, there is a possibility of exams in the next week, means you start reading now, isn't it? So that is proactive. You may not be confirmed that these exams may be there. It's a proactive action. It is my opinion or my understanding that may or may not correct, but I always fascinated with this sort of activities of our body. Okay, coming to the, okay, primary secretions are. As I told you, that is, there are primary secretions from the acinar cells. Acinar cells are the glandular epithelium lining the acini, which are going to secrete. The primary secretions are modified by active ductular cells. Primary secretions from the acinar cells of the acini and modified by active ductular cells. What is happening here in the ductular cells means there is reabsorption of sodium and chloride, but these ductular cells are impermeable to water. So what is going to happen? Sodium and chloride are going to be reabsorbed, means hypotonic to plasma. Water is not going to be reabsorbed. Only sodium and chloride is reabsorbed, hypotonic to plasma. Okay, and of course it is going to add up. Potassium and bicarbonates are secreted, which is turning the primary secretion into alkaline. So you can say that at basal rates, the salivary secretions are hypotonic and slightly alkaline. Is it clear? Hypotonic and slightly alkaline. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So composition of saliva varies with salivary flow rates. Already I told you that. So this to happen, that is ductal cells to contribute their action, certain amount of time is required. So at basal rate of secretion, this primary, secondary and final composition, you are going to see with hypotonic and as well as slightly alkaline. But in the case of when it is too fast, there is no contribution from the ductal cells and primary secretions itself. It is slightly acidic and isotonic to plasma. Isotonic to plasma and acidic. Is it clear? So fast rates, isotonic and slightly acidic. In normal rates, hypotonic and alkaline. Composition of saliva varies with salivary flow rates. This thing you have to remember.
Alkaline.
The secondary secretions ductal cells apply to. So the secondary secretions, that is nothing but from the ductal cells, are applied to primary secretion in resting rate of secretion, but not in copious fast secretions. That is, you have to understand. That is primary. In the very fast secretions, primary secretion only is coming out of the ducts. Okay. This diagram is showing the histological structure of um, serous mucus and seromucus. Okay, what are the serous glands? This is serous gland. This is nothing but parotid gland. The columnar cells, the acinar cells, columnar in nature, and zymos and granules. The serous secretions are packed in the zymos and granules and they are going to be released. These are very thin and rich in enzymes. Thin and rich in enzymes. Whereas the mucus secretions, you are not going to see any zymos and granules. Any zymos and granules. But here what you are going to see is, and seromucus, you are able to see that very few amount of secretory zymos and granules you are going to see, as well as, of course, endoplasmic reticulum is the one which helps in the almost all production of mucin and secretory granules and these are all the things. Okay, this is the structural variation. So zymos and rich in zymos and granules, you can think of serous secretions. Okay. Coming to the composition of saliva. Composition of the saliva, just okay. Daily secretion is about 1500 ml. 1500 ml of saliva is going to be secreted. And of course, the enzymes. What are all the enzymes you are going to see is Tylenine alpha amylase, that is nothing but salivary alpha amylase. And mucin. Mucin is the one which acts as a lubricant. Lubricant. What is the role of mucin means? Whenever you are eating some hot substances, it will prevent the damage to your tongue and oral structures by mm, diluting the temperature. And also any very some of the structures are very harsh. Okay, murukulu something we will eat, no? So those are all the very hard substances which are going to break, possibility of breaking the mucous membrane of the stomach, oral cavity, that is going to be prevented by the mucin. Ultimately, mucin acts as a lubricant. Enzymes, Talin, some of the lysozymes. What is the role of lysozyme? Lysozymes are the one which are going to act as a bactericidal agent. Bactericidal means they are going to dissolve the bacterial membranes, dissolve the bacterial membrane. Of course, lingual lipase, which is going to act over the lipids are the fatty acids. Kallikrein, it is a that is vasodilator agent, and small amounts of urea, uric acid, cholesterol, and mucin. These are all the things are going to be secreted from the one of the components. Immunoglobulin A. Immunoglobulin A is also one of the component you know very well. Inorganic substances is better you classified in classified here as water and organic solids. Better you classify like that, water, solids. In the solids, organic, inorganic. Organic constitutes the enzymes and what are all the things till now you studied. And inorganic substances, cations, anions. Okay, sodium, potassium, and calcium, and of course, anions are chloride and bicarbonates. The pH is ranging from 6.5 to 7.5, or 6 to 7.4 or 6.5. Okay. So this is the composition. In a tabular column, you depict in a proper way. That is some amount, 99% is water, 1% is solids, 1% is solids, once again divided into organic and inorganic. Okay. And pH. Don't forget to write about the pH. Okay. Okay, one question I would like to ask. It is slightly alkaline, isn't it? 6.5 to 7.4 means it is nearing slightly alkaline. How it is going to be helpful?
And slightly acidic.
Not the talent.
It protects the tooth enamel.
Yes, yes, very good. So dental caries is going to be prevented. Dental hygiene and oral hygiene is going to be maintained, and also it is going to neutralize some of the times if the persons are suffering with the hyperacidity, there is every possibility of belching. Of belching is also carrying some amount of acid to the mouth region. I think most of you might have experienced this particular thing, and that is going to be neutralized. So these are all some of the actions of the slightly acidic, slightly basic or alkaline pH of the, and also another important thing is salivary alpha amylase is the one which is active at the 6.5 pH, 6.5 pH. Okay, so that it's the digestive action is going to be exhibited. Okay, coming to the digestive functions. Now, okay, digestive functions. Just now we have learned that is tyalin or salivary alpha amylase is there. Alpha amylase is there. Of course, it is going to act on the carbohydrates. Okay, so cooked starch or uncooked starch, it is going to act. It is going to exhibit its actions on the cooked starch, and it is going to usually alpha 1,4 linkages. It is going to break alpha 1,4 linkages. Okay, digestive functions is through tyalin or salivary alpha amylase, which is going to act over the what is it? Cooked starch and acting over the alpha 1,4 linkages, and it is going to break this particular what is. To break down to that of the maltose. Okay, lipids lipase. It is of very, very little, and another word about it is about alpha amylases. Alpha amylase, just now we discussed that is 6.5 is the optimal pH for its action. So when the bolus which is formed after chewing and mastication, which is going to be swallowed, what is going to happen? The food material is mixed with the salivary components, and alpha amylase in the stomach, the pH is very, very low. Okay, 1 to 2 pH may be there because of the HCl, which is not favorable for the action of this particular alpha amylase. So alpha amylase action is going to be almost diminished, but in the bolus, central portion of the bolus, which is not exposed to the acidic pH, the central portion of the bolus still have the alkaline pH that is going to be, that can be digested by the alpha amylase. If you remember all these things, you try to present, because as I told you once again, when you are presenting the functions of saliva, you have to present as up to the level of the standards of the medico. Okay, so digestive functions mainly alpha amylase, and another one is the lingual lipase. It is contributing for lingual lipase is contributing for only 10% of its digestive actions. Coming to the protective functions. Protective functions, that is defense mechanism, as every local secretions are having the component of immunoglobulin A, which is going to be protective. Okay, and just now I told you that is lysozymes are there. Lysozymes, which are going to dissolve the bacterial cell walls and helps in the bactericidal action, whereas lactoferrins are the one which are going to act as it. Lactoferrins, which are going to act as what is that called? Bacteriostatic in nature. Bacteriostatic in nature. Protective function, mucin secretion. Mucin secretion is the one which protects from the heart, and two cold substances damage to the mucous membrane is going to be protected. Excretory functions, it is going to help in the excretion of certain things like alcohol, urea, heavy metals, and morphine, thiocyanate. These are all things are going to be excreted, and some benign drugs also excreted. Whenever you are taking drugs for any of the amoebiasis or malaria, you can feel that metallic taste. Metallic taste. Whenever you are under the treatment of malaria, you can feel the metallic taste in the saliva, because those drugs are going to be excreted in the saliva. What is this? Okay, on the screen I'm seeing some of the diagrams, some of the lines. Okay, can you imagine the taste sensation without saliva, dry mouth? Is it possible? Because taste sensation is a chemical sensation. So when the food substances are going to be dissolved into the saliva, and they are going to release certain ions like sodium, if it is released, the salt is sensation. Salty sensation is going to be identified. H plus ions are going to be released. Then sour sensation is going to be identified like that. Okay, water balance, thirst mechanism. Through the thirst mechanism, water balance is going to be identified. And panting, I think all of you know what is panting. Panting, usually seen in the case of lower animals, that is cat, dog, especially in this summer region, protrude the tongue and it will take respirations, and whatever the temperature is going to evaporate, environment temperature is going to evaporate the saliva over the tongue region and helps in the maintenance of the temperature. Buffer action, just now we discussed, that is whatever the extra amount of regurgitation of acids from the stomach are going to be buffered with a slightly alkaline nature. And mechanical function, as I told you, that is going to lubrication of the mucus is the one which is going to lubricate. Okay. Coming to the another important aspect, that is regulation of salivary secretion. Regulation is by the neuronal regulation. I told you that in the parotid gland is supplied by the ninth cranial nerve, which is under the influence of inferior salivatory nucleus, and the submandibular and sublingual glands are under the influence of seventh cranial nerve, which are under the influence of superior salivatory nucleus. Okay, influence of flow rates. Regulation of salivary secretion, that is composition is under the influence of flow rates, that is resting rate is hypotonic and constant rate or isotonic and less potassium is going to be there and slightly acidic it may be because there is no contribution of bicarbonates here. Parasympathetic secretion parasympathetic secretion causes profuse watery saliva with less organic content. Less organic content but rich in enzymes. Atropine decreases salivary secretion. Okay, what is the mechanism? The parasympathetic secretion. Acetylcholine is the ninth cranial nerve. That is acetylcholine is going to be secreted along with as a neurotransmitter. Along with there is a co-transmitter called as vasointestinal polypeptide. So, parasympathetic increases salivary secretion. The mechanism being the acetylcholine stimulates salivary glands and VIP, vasoactive intestinal polypeptide, acts as a co-transmitter, which is a salivary vasodilator. In the very beginning, I told you that blood supply is going to make a lot of difference in the salivary secretions. That is, whenever the vasodilatation occurs, profuse amount of blood flow will be there and there is copious amounts of secretions are there. Okay, sorry. And atropine. What is atropine? Anybody?
Vasoconstrictor.
It is not the vasoconstrictor. It is the anticholinergic. It is the anticholinergic. So it is going to block the parasympathetic action. It is going to block this parasympathetic action. Whenever the atropine is given, it decreases the salivary secretion. Usually atropine is used whenever the person is suffering from bradycardia. I think all of you know what is bradycardia. CVS is over. Bradycardia. So bradycardia means decrease in heart rate, which is under the influence of parasympathetic overactivity. To block that one, anticholinergic drugs such as atropine is given. In such cases, the person feels very dryness of the mouth. One of the side effects is dryness of the mouth. Okay. Sympathetic stimulation, small amounts of rich in organic contents in mucus. So in this case, sympathetic stimulation, noradrenaline is being the neurotransmitter. It is going to cause vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction, because of this vasoconstriction, you are going to observe only very small amounts rich in organic contents and mucus. Rich in organic contents and mucus. So very thick and viscid small quantities of secretion will be there whenever the sympathetic stimulation. Copious, watery, enzyme-rich secretions will be there whenever there is a parasympathetic stimulation is there. So what is the mechanism just now? Acetylcholine, it stimulates the salivary glands. VAB, it is causing salivary vasodilator, and kallikrein is also vasodilator. Okay, salivary blood vessels. Sympathetic decreases salivary secretions through the vasoconstriction of the salivary blood vessels. Drying of the mouth in acute stress is because of the mechanism of action is it is going to vasoconstrict the blood vessels which are supplying this one. The same thing what we have taught, what we have learned now is represented in this particular neuronal regulation. This is the parotid gland, this is the submandibular and sublingual glands. Sorry, this is sublingual, this is submandibular gland. And what is happening here is this is the center, salivary centers. It having the two components, that is inferior salivatory nucleus and superior salivatory nucleus. Inferior salivatory nucleus is supplying the nerve via the ninth cranial nerve and through the aortic ganglion to the parotid gland. Whereas superior salivatory nucleus, 1, 2, 3, here the names are given. Nervous intermediates, facial nerve, corda tympani, and finally lingual nerve and the submandibular ganglion. This is the submandibular ganglion. From the postganglionic fibers, they are going to supply to the sublingual as well as submandibular gland. Okay, this is and now you have to tell me what is the role of higher centers. How these higher centers will influence hypothalamus, which is going to influence once again salivary centers either to decrease or to increase the just now I told you that there is this thought, smell, sight of the food. That is, all these things are going to be interpreted by the central nervous system, which are going to give stimulus to the hypothalamus. Once again, hypothalamus will stimulate these two and produce. This is the mechanism. Mechanism how the thought, smell, and sight of the food is going to influence. Are you there here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The same
Yes,
thing
ma'am.
in the same, that is inferior salivary nucleus, tympanic and aortic ganglion supplying to the parotid gland. Parotid gland, the same thing is depicted here. That is the pons, this is superior salivary nucleus. From this chordate is the submandibular ganglion, it is supplying to the sublingual and submandibular glands. Now coming to the, so in the regulation of saliva, just we have learned that it is absolutely under the neuronal control. There is no hormonal regulation of the salivary secretion. That is one thing, and especially parasympathetic and sympathetic. That's one thing we have learned. And what is the uh, parasympathetic reflex outcome? It is a reflex is, I think all of you might have learned all these things in the CVS. Just completion sake, reflex is a spontaneous, unconscious stereotypic response to a stimulus, which involves a part of the CNS, and the components are the, because all of you know all these things, I don't want to waste time on this particular thing. We will move on to the next. And so a reflex sensation is also one which is contributing for the reflexes. That is chewing reflex. Chewing reflex is the one when we are talking about the motor components of the oral cavity, we will discuss in detail. That is, chewing mechanism is the most potent stimulus for the salivary secretion. You might have heard many a times you have to chew properly for proper digestion. What is going to happen? Chewing mechanism, how it is going to helpful for you is proper chewing is makes the um, mechanical digestion. That is, it decreases the size of the particles and everything, and it helps in the proper mixing of the saliva. You know, just now we have learned that it is have digestive capabilities. So, if more amount of time you are spending in the mouth itself, it is you are providing time for the action of alpha amylase, lipase, and all these things. And of course, when you are, and another thing is, chewing has a great role in stimulation of satiety center. Stimulation of satiety. What is meant by satiety? Satiety center means it is a saturation center. Saturation. So you feel like, oh, I'm enough. And you don't want to eat anymore. If you don't chew properly, there is every possibility you don't feel like I ate sufficiently. You want to have much more. So that is one of the beautiful reason behind that one. Obesity nowadays, nowadays obesity is going on increasing, isn't it? Because everybody lost the process of eating properly. If you eat properly, if you eat, chew properly, for masticate properly, the satiety center is going to be stimulated, and for few quantity, less quantity of food itself, you feel like over, okay, done with the food, and you don't want to eat any more food. Okay, that is the role, and this reflex stimulation for the reflex as well as most potent stimulus for the secretion of salivary secretions is the chewing mechanism. What is this? Crocodile tears. I think all of you might have heard this particular thing. Crocodile will cry when it is eating. It is happily eating, actually, to be frank, but it is showing as a pretending that it is crying. Why it happens? What is the scientific basis for it? Anybody?
Salivary glands opens at that place.
At the eyes. Okay, you are something, you are tried logically, but what is that means? Whatever the, I told you that is, I, parasympathetic stimulation will be there to the salivary secretions. The same fibers will innervate the lacrimal glands, will innervate the lacrimal glands. Whenever the person is eating, usually salivary secretions are sufficient. But because the same fibers are innervating the lacrimal glands of the crocodile, it is going on secreting tears also. That's all. That's the reason for this particular thing. And coming to the applied aspect, please all of you be attentive. I know most of you are not listening properly, but once again, I demand all of your attention now because this is very important exam oriented question. In the applied aspect, what is the, this is called, what is paralytic secretion? When you call paralysis, I want to answer.
When functions are obstructed.
Impairment of movement of part.
Normal functioning is not there. I'm sorry, I am unable to hear what.
Movement is impaired, but functioning is impaired.
Can anybody write in the chat? Write your answer in the chat. Loss of movement is the paralysis. Any better answer? Due to, very good, due to damage to the nerves. Whenever there is denervation is there, nerve supply is lost, you are going to call it as paralysis. Okay. Nerve supply is, paralysis means nerve supply is lost. Denervation or nerve supply is lost. Damage to the nerve supply of that particular area resulting in paralysis of that particular area. Okay. So paralytic secretion. Claude Bernard is a scientist. He was enthusiastic that he wants to know what happens if there is no nerve supply. Just now we have read that the salivary secretions are under the influence of the neuronal stimulation, isn't it? So he blocked that chordae tympani now. He blocked, that is submandibular salivary glands are the one which are contributing for 70% of the secretion. And of course, he didn't do in the humans, but he selected some cats and dogs and he did the denervation of the glands. Okay. And can anybody guess what may be the conclusion? What he might have observed? Just guess. You can write in the chat box. Denervation to the salivary glands has occurred. What happens to it? What is the result? Nobody is there. Taste is lost. Okay. What happens to the salivary secretions? Loss of secretion. Very good. One person impaired salivary secretion. Loss of secretion. Okay. Most of the basal secretion is same. Only basal secretion is same. Decrease in secretion. Okay. We will see what his observations are. What his observations are. So paralytic secretion, Claude Bernard, denervation of chordae tympani, that is parasympathetic in nature, which is chordae tympani nerve, which is parasympathetic in nature. The dog is the selected experimental animal, and what he observed is thin, turbid, excessive saliva. Try to understand here. Thin, turbid, excessive saliva up to 7th day and diminishes in 3 weeks. Diminished in 3 weeks. So what is that? He also thought when I cut the nerves, there will be decrease in salivary secretion. But contrary to his expectations, what he observed is thin, turbid, excessive saliva, but it is up to 7th day. 7th day, and slowly the secretion start decreasing within 3 weeks. And this particular special type of response, he considered it as paralytic secretion. Immediately after denervation, the secretions are not decreased, but after about 3 weeks, it is decreased. So, what is the mechanism? Why? It's a natural understanding, that is, the nervous stimulus is there, secretion is there. When the nerves are damaged, the secretion should be reduced. But what is the mechanism? Why it is contrary to our expectations means mechanism denervated salivary glands become more sensitive to adrenaline. Adrenaline. So turbid excessive saliva is the adrenaline, and they are typically responded like this, that excessive saliva. So up to 7th day, and slowly after that, this effect is also lost and diminished within 3 weeks and end up in decreased and very minimal amount of salivary secretion. This particular specialized secretion observed in the experimental condition called as paralytic secretion. Paralytic secretion. So in your exams, just the same term, paralytic secretions can be asked as a short notes question. They won't give any clue regarding whether it is salivary or gastric or something else, something else. At the end of the year, you are completed with the entire syllabus, isn't it? Entire syllabus. You will get confusion whether it is of any endocrine secretions, exocrine secretions, or any gastric paralyte. So paralytic secretion is talking about the salivary secretions. Paralytic secretions is talking about the salivary secretions. It is an experimental condition. Who did it is Claude Bernard, who denervated the parasympathetic innervation to that of the submandibular salivary glands, and the animal selected here it is the dog. And what the observations are, the thin turbid excessive secretions you are going to see up to the 7th day, and afterwards the diminished in 3 weeks of and the mechanism of denervated salivary glands become more sensitive. What is the mechanism? Observe this, they are becoming more sensitive towards adrenaline. Okay, in the applied aspects of salivary secretions, few more words, that is sialoria. Anybody can tell? What is sialoria?
Increase in salivary secretion.
Excessive salivary.
Hypersecretion.
Excessive secretion of saliva.
Salivary.
Saliva.
Very good. Xerostomia.
Inadequate secretion of saliva.
Decreased
No secretion.
Inadequate secretion.
Decrease the secretion of saliva.
the person will be suffering with that of the dryness of the mouth, and also what do we call that is dental caries, and oral hygiene is not going to be maintained. So repeated infections of the oral region you are going to observe. What is silolithiasis? Anybody tell? Lithiasis.
Stone formed in the duct.
Very good, very good. The stone formation in the Stenson duct or Morton's duct or any other duct. So usually the very thick viscid secretions, if continuously very thick organically rich secretions are there, that is sympathetic secretions, isn't it? Sympathetic secretions continuously means the person is under stress continuously, isn't it? Sympathetic secretions, there is every possibility of silolithiasis. Of course, the treatment will be surgical removal of the drug, the stone is going to be done. And of course, once again, we will come back to our clinical case. I told you the reasons and explanation in the last class also, but I want to tell once again, that is 60-year-old female suffering from oral cancer. Radiation therapy was given in the area of salivary glands. What effects would have on the starch digestion as well as on the teeth? Please, I'm expecting the answers from you.
There is no effect for digestion of starch
Unaffected.
because there is a pancreatic hemolysis there. No?
Very good, very good.
Unaffected.
And also, usually, whatever the food we are eating, very short duration of time it is in our mouth. So that immediately after entering into the stomach, what is going to happen? The optimal pH is not available. Very minimal action of alpha amylase is going to be observed. That is why its contribution is very less in normal individuals also. That's why if it is lost, there is no problem to the starch digestion. It will be taken over by the pancreatic alpha amylase. On the teeth, what is going to happen?
Prevents from bacterial infections.
Yes, dental caries. Okay, dental caries you are going to see. So the answer to the clinical case is radiation therapy results in atielism or suppression of salivary secretions. Effect of atielism on starch digestion nil effect. You can write the explanation for it. On teeth, increased probability of developing dental caries because the saliva is the one which maintains the oral hygiene as well as the What is that? It is going to buffering action, which prevents the dental caries. When that is not there, so it is going to result in dental caries. Okay. Few words, please. All of you try to answer these questions. Hypotonic saliva indicates normal rate of secretion or not. Faster.
Normal, ma'am.
Normal.
Normal. Very good. Primary secretion is acidic than that of the secondary secretion. Is it right?
True, ma'am.
False.
True.
False, ma'am.
Yes. Secondary secretion is the one which is contributing for tiling is. Please mute yourself, somebody. Optimum pH for tiling is
6.5.
panting is
Body,
regulate
body temperature.
Body temperature.
Temperature.
temperature regulation. Prolonged in saliva protects. What is the outer layer of the
Enamel.
enamel is the one. Proline is one of the component in the saliva which protects the enamel. Saliva excretes. What are all the things excreted by the saliva?
Inorganic.
Uric.
Organic,
Organic.
sodium, salivary amylase, and inorganic substance.
Thiocyanate, okay, heavy metals, lead. And some of the drugs also excreted. Dorsal nucleus of ninth cranial nerve is dash salivatory nucleus. Inferior. Most potent stimulus for salivary secretion is
Neural.
most potent.
Food.
Chewing, ma'am.
Very good. Who is that answer?
Chewing.
Chewing mechanism. Ever చెప్పారమ్మా? That's good. ఎవరు చెప్పారు? నేను
Saranya, ma'am.
Right. Okay. Parasympathetic neurotransmitters which stimulate salivary secretion are. What are the neurotransmitters from the parasympathetic nervous system which helps in
Acetylcholine.
acetylcholine? Norepinephrine from sympathetic.
Ma'am, VIP peptide.
Very good. Bradykinin, VIP. These are all the ones which are going to helpful for the excessive secretion. And you can even atropine. Atropine is the one.
Anticholinergic. Which decreases the salivary secretion.
Sympathetic stimulation causes decrease in salivary secretion due to dash blood supply.
Vasoconstriction.
Vasoconstriction.
Due to vasoconstriction.
Decrease in blood supply.
Decrease in blood supply.
Very good. Please, okay. With this, I'm completing this today's topic. That is, all of you, what you do is you, as much elaboratively as possible, you prepare short notes for functions of saliva, and entire topic itself you go through it. It helps you to understand rest of the functions of the our GIT also, gastrointestinal tract. Okay. Thank you everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.